Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Shop Talk number 26. I'm your host, Robert O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your time and taking time out of your day to spend time with me here on the Shop Talk live streams. And if you want to ask questions, go ahead and get those in the chat box there. I noticed there's already some questions coming in. Thank you to Jim Deeming for our intro music. And Jim is a fantastic fingerstyle, Chet Atkins, thumb-picking kind of guy. Check out his website, jimsguitars.com. And he's got some fantastic music available there if you want to help support him. Also, thank you to all of our sponsors that help support the Lutherie Academy and keep the lights on here. By the way, one of those sponsors will be on screen here with us live in just a few minutes, Pacific Rim Tonewoods out there on the West Coast. And they're going to talk about the wood processing process. That's kind of redundant, but that's the way it came out. Jim Deeming, let's see, we've mentioned him. We've mentioned, we're going to have some giveaways. I always give some giveaways. I've got Cesar all the way down there in Brazil, Cesar and Manuela. And let's see if they can dial in here for us. Let's see, where are they at? Let me just find them. Cesar, there they are, Cesar and Manuela. How you doing, Cesar?
Hello.
Hello.
And look at that,
Oh,
you're in
fine.
my shop
Sorry, I had
again.
a little bit of connection issues, but we are back.
Yeah, Cesar. Oh, we got a little, looks like your screen froze there again. There it goes. It looks like Cesar's in my shop, but he's not in my shop. He's using a green screen, has my backdrop there, and he's all the way down there in São Paulo, Brazil. He's my web developer. He's also going to be doing the drawings today. Cesar, why don't you tell everybody what we're giving away today? Do we have a delay? Come in, Cesar. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Sorry, I think we are having some pretty bad connection issues today.
All right. So what can people win if they get in the drawing?
Yeah, so today we have a bit of a special drawing. We are giving away not only digital items, but physical items. We are giving away some coffee mugs and also other freebies by Pacific Rim Tonewoods, like a hoodie.
So we're giving away a hoodie and 2 coffee mugs. How do they enter to win those items?
Well, that's pretty easy. At the top of the chat box here on YouTube, there is a link. All you have to do is fill in your name and email, and we will randomly generate a number from this list, and then we will contact you. And just a reminder that the freebies are North America only this time.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Cesar. We'll be back to you here in a few minutes, and we'll let you do a drawing for the giveaway.
Thank you.
Don't go away. All right. So make sure you put in the chat box where you're from. I always like seeing where people are from, even after the live stream. There's somebody already up there in Edmonton, Alberta. Ken, thanks for tuning in. Rich Haas. Well, actually, Rich is just right around the corner from me here in Parker, Colorado. We went and had lunch the other day. Thanks for tuning in there. There's another person from Canada, Bruce up there. And I see a bunch of questions coming in. There's one from California, Reed Johnson from Castle Rock, Colorado. Wow. Look at that. Man, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Certainly appreciate that. And let's see if I can press the right buttons here. We'll get this thing going. Let me just make a couple of quick announcements about some of our sponsors. Pacific Rim Tonewoods is going to be on here in just a few minutes talking about the wood processing process from tree all the way to finished product for us luthiers. They're having a promo until November 9th. Go over to their website. In fact, let me just pull up their website here, pacificrimtonewoods.com. And there's a lot of great information on their website, especially some videos. If you click on that video tab you just saw me click on there, and they'll show the wood process.
It begins with trees.
And I can actually advance this video a little bit, and it kind of gets really interesting here real quick. Shows the logs all the way to the finished product, and it's a fascinating, informative video. They got 2 or 3 videos on there that you really should check out. It gets really interesting how they split the wood, how they dry the wood, how they saw the wood, and it even got a robot in the factory there. Check this out coming up here just a couple of seconds here in the video. I mean, all the machinery is super high tech. Look at that. There's a robot even helping out there. Some really cool stuff. So make sure that you go check out their website. PacificRimTonewoods.com. They're having a promo until November 9th that you get 10% off on any product. So go to PacificRimTonewoods.com, and then at checkout, you have to put in the promo code LUTHERY. And for those of you who don't know how to spell it, there's actually two spellings for that. The way that the promo code is LUTHERIE. So until November 9th, you get 10% off from your purchase there. LMI, they're always having sales. And the best way to find out about LMI's sales is to sign up for their newsletter. And if you go out to their website, www.lmii.com, and click on sign up for the newsletter, that way you'll know. Right now, they're having a sale on second grade ebony fingerboards and bridge blanks, 25% off. That's a pretty good bargain there, folks. So make sure you check that out. lmii.com, 25% off second grade ebony fretboards and bridge blanks. Also, StewMac is having a super Halloween sale, 15% off. And there's a special link you have to use to get that, and it's in the chat box there. It's also in the video description. And Cesar, make sure that works its way up to the top of the chat box here, if you would. All right, let me just check out the chat box here, see how we're doing. I know if some people had some trouble signing up for the giveaway. By the way, that link only becomes active when I go live. So make sure that you don't try and get in there early. Let's go ahead and bring up the men of the hour. I say men of the hour because we have two people who are going to show up here. I'll go ahead and bring them up here on screen. And let's see if I can push the right button. There we go. I tell you what, let me give you guys a full screen. There we go. All right. On my right, I'm looking at the screen. There is Eric Warner. And on my left is David Olson. So Eric, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Eric Warner from Pacific Rim Tonewoods. I'm a general manager here. I've worked at Pacific Rim Tonewoods for just over 28 years, and we cut wood for acoustic guitars.
Fantastic. David, what do you do?
Well, by day, I'm an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, but I have also a background in forestry and wood products. And for the last few years, I've been consulting on the sonic testing and acoustics of Tonewood for Pacific Rim Tonewoods.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome aboard, gentlemen. Heck, we didn't even get an applause for these guys today. Let's get some applause for them. Come on, guys. Let's welcome to the show here. Thank you very much there. All right. So I already have some questions rolling in here. I also have a slideshow prepared that Eric, you sent me some pictures. We can talk about that here in a few minutes, but let's just go ahead and start with a question. You okay for a question?
Yeah, we're okay.
All right, here we go. Here comes a question. This comes all the way from Samuel in Romania. Look at that. What is approximately the shortest time period from log to ready to use sets? And what drying process does the sawn timber go through? That's a great question.
We could probably have from the log to a set we would ship you in 4 weeks, depending on the time of year. We dry all our wood through dehumidification in a kiln, and so we like to dry that over a period of 4 weeks, starting from something that's very wet. If it had time to pre-dry in the summer, it could be as short as 3 weeks, but that would be the shortest time period.
Okay. And the drying process, then you actually do kiln dried?
Yes, we do kiln dried dehumidification. We're heating up that environment and venting out the moisture within that environment.
Okay.
And over a period of 4 weeks.
Is that similar to the torrefication process we hear about?
Not at all. That's a totally different deal, and that's a different. We could talk about that at some point, Dr. Olson. But yeah. That's a different process.
Okay. All right. Here's one from DeSouza Classical Guitars. What are the advantages and disadvantages to air-dried lumber?
I don't know if there's any disadvantages to air-dried lumber. There are disadvantages when you don't dry your wood properly and take care of it and make sure it doesn't dry too fast. So that's where things can go wrong. It's in stage 1 of drying after that tree is cut down and it's a log. All of the bad things that will happen during the drying process will start there. If you don't inseal the wood, if you don't sticker the wood, if you don't weight the wood, if you don't have enough air velocity through the wood, etc. So
Okay. Wow, it sounds pretty involved process. I've noticed a lot of people, and I'm following along with the chat box here. There's a lot of people up in your area of the country there. You're in Washington State, is that correct?
yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of people from Alberta, British Columbia, Oregon, Washington in the chat box here. In fact, here's a question from Ian. Ian was just in town here in July. He took Trevor Gore's modal tuning class here, and it says, when classifying woods for tops, are the main considerations cosmetic or grain pattern or wood density, or what do you think?
When we select logs and cut those logs up into rounds and blocks, we're steering the right wood to become a top base. We're steering around defects, pitch, knots, etc. At that point, traditionally for the last 30 plus years, we've pushed wood through the factory and focused on cutting it the right way, but then it's cosmetics after that. And one of the reasons we have our new website up and Dr. Olson got involved is because we're finally grading wood sonically, which is removing the cosmetic factor and focusing strictly on sound, which allows more wood to become a soundboard, which I think is arguably the most important part of the guitar, the sonic engine of the guitar.
Right. That's interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, up until now, I believe that all of the tone wood that's been graded has been graded visually and not sonically. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we're not luthiers here, so we were able to provide really great ingredients for the luthiers to do their work with. But everybody has an experience in a guitar store where you pull a guitar off, you play it, and it just doesn't sound right, and you put it back. That's the properties in the wood that aren't working well together. And so now we can provide wood with known ingredients and then let the luthier learn and execute and optimize from there.
Perfect. In a few minutes, I'm going to pull up that slideshow and you can talk about the process. And I think you also have a little chart or graph. And I think David's going to do a little demonstration of how you sonically test. Is that correct, David?
You're breaking up there.
Did I break up on you?
Here.
How about now? Are we back?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
said that, David, you're going to do a little demonstration here in a few minutes about how you actually do your sonic testing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
One more time.
All right. What I said is I think, David, you're going to do a demonstration here in a few minutes on how to sonically test your wood, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. All right. I think the connection issue is not on my end. I'm showing a bunch of bars on my end, so it must be a bunch of people that are just jumping on the internet. Maybe it's a bunch of people just jumping in here to figure out what we're doing on this live stream. Maybe that's it, huh? All right. I'm going to
Good to
pull
have
up
the
some pictures, and if our connection is still good, I'm going to let you guys walk us through the process here. So here we go. The first picture I'm showing is the beautiful setup there. That's the international headquarters for Pacific Rim Tonewoods, correct?
Yes.
Beautiful area. Very, very nice. And the
Yeah.
next slide I
Yeah.
pulled up,
Thank you.
you ever seen one of these, Eric? Did I lose you again?
You did. It cuts in and out, but we can talk through the process as you have the slides up here.
Sure, go ahead, and I'll just go through the slides. The first one I have here is just a great big log that came in. You can start with that one.
Yeah, so that's a log that has been hand selected, probably in British Columbia, and we've aligned that log to the track. There's a deck saw that's traveling down the track, and our focus is to cut that log into rounds that are about the height of a guitar, 22 inches we shoot for. And from there, we can move that round over to the splitting deck and focus on splitting it into blocks and bracing, working around defects. You can see Justin sapping the log there. He's removing the sap so he can see if there are any knots or defects he should split on, and then he'll split that apart to gain some more information in that process. We like to split the wood so the fibers are straight and splitting right down the axis there.
That was a very impressive. I like that picture there because, boy, there's very tight, straight grain.
Yeah, so then that as that round split apart, there's a lot of information there, but in the end, what we have here is a block that the splitter has presented to the sawyer, and his focus now is cutting boards out for guitars, but keeping those boards on perfect quarter where that grain is at right angle to the face. And so to do that, he dogs it in. He'll align it to where he needs to get a dreadnought top. Then he'll back away and actually collect some bracewood while he opens up the face to a guitar top. He'll take his guitar top board there and then undog the block and articulate it to bring it back on quarter and repeat. He'll get bracewood. He'll turn it. And I think there's a photo coming up here of the block reconstituted, which will show you the yield. I don't know if you had that.
Yeah, I
one
think
in
I
there,
do. Let me
Robbie,
just
but
show that.
after the board travels down the conveyor, then the edger will edge the board to a certain width based. He's focusing on going right down the growth ring. He's thinking about the seam of the guitar
Right.
and where that's at.
Yep. And there's the
And then
finished
from there, it
product.
gets thicker.
Is that Let's spruce there that he's working with?
That yeah, very well could be. Probably about 50-60% of our production is with Let's spruce logs.
Really? I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Perfect. All right. I did have that picture. Let me see if I can bring that back up here real quick because there was a picture that you sent me that actually showed the yield, and I can't seem to find it right now, which is
Okay.
par for the course. That's Murphy's Law for me. All right. Let's just go back to some questions here. Let's see. Oh, we got somebody all the way over there in Germany. Wow. Thanks for tuning in. I have a brother that lives in Frankfurt, so it's starting to get pretty late in the day for you guys in the evening there. Make sure everybody is entering the drawing there. Click on the link, put in your email and name so we can find you. Let's see. Going down through the question. Boy, there's a lot of people signing in. Here we go. Here comes a question from Ken. Are your traditional grade soundboards rejects from the sonically graded soundboards? That's a good question.
No, not necessarily. We probably process 300,000 guitar tops a year for manufacturers and small boutique builders. We don't measure every piece of wood that we manufacture, but the wood we do measure, we have these parameters to get in the door to become a sonically graded top. And then if it doesn't meet that criteria, we'll steer it back into our system and then it just travels with everything else. So when you buy a sonically graded top from us, you know what those ingredients are, and it had to pass a couple tests to get that far.
Perfect.
There's still a lot of good wood in the factory, but we're just elevating a selective few here.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you might think of it.
go ahead, David.
You might think of it as just this river of tonewood that flows through this place. Like Eric said, 300,000 guitar tops per year, about 1 million linear feet of bracewood. And all we do is dip a cup into that stream, to sample it.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And so a tiny proportion of the wood fitting the best criteria are sonically graded, but the what comes back into the flow doesn't dilute the stream, so to speak.
Perfect. That's a great analogy. I thank you for that, David. I think there's a bunch of questions coming up about how to do the sonic testing and what you're looking for. And so before we get into that and get into David's demo, why don't we pop down to Sao Paulo, Brazil one more time, and we'll do a giveaway, a drawing, I think, for a Pacific Rim Tonewoods hoodie. What do you think? Is that a good one to give away first?
Sure.
I'll take that as a yes. All right. So I'm going to take you off screen here for a second, and I'm going to, show the hoodie for us. Let's see it.
Here's the hoodie.
There you go. I've heard that if you use a Pacific Rim Tonewood hoodie as you're building, it automatically makes your instrument sound better. Is that correct?
Potentially.
especially if you drink through a Pacific Rim Tonewoods coffee mug.
There you go. All right. Well, we're going to start by giving away the hoodie. So let me pop down there to Brazil. Here comes Cesar and Manuela down there. They're really in Brazil, folks. I promise. They're not in my shop, even though the backdrop looks like my shop. So, Cesar, how many people do we have in the drawing?
We have more than 40 people already, which is quite impressive.
Okay.
So the first one will be for the hoodie, right?
Yes.
And Manuela is ready to roll the dice.
Here's our random number generator there by the beautiful Manuela, also known as Miss Brazil. There
And
we
got
go.
number 37. So
Who's number 37?
Let me switch to the spreadsheet. And number 37 is, let's reveal, Nate Scott.
Nate Scott,
So,
you're
Nate.
the lucky winner for the Pacific Rim Tonewoods hoodie. Make sure you use that as you build. It'll make your instrument sound better. Guaranteed. I promise.
I think you'll.
I'll get in touch with Nate in a moment.
All right. Thank you very much, Cesar and Manuela. We'll be back to you here in a few minutes when we give away a couple of Pacific Rim Tonewoods coffee mugs. So let's go back to Eric and David.
Okay.
Good. Now, here comes a question related to the sonic testing. Here we go. How do you grade wood sonically and make it consistent? Are there certain things you can measure? So what are you looking for when you actually grade something sonically, David?
Right. It's a great question. So there are essentially three different properties that we can measure. Density, and that's fairly straightforward. It's simply the volume of the board and the mass, and mass over volume. And that gives us the density of the wood. The other things we can measure are stiffness, which is kind of in the middle. That's a little harder to measure, but the way we do it is we measure it acoustically, using acoustic formulas. And the third thing that we measure is something called damping, which really refers to the internal friction of the wood. Whenever we have a piece of wood that bends in a vibration, there's a certain amount of friction within that wood. And this is true of anything that vibrates. So you can kind of think of damping. Damping's a little bit difficult. It's very hard to measure. It's very hard to consistently measure. But you can kind of think of it in the following terms, that a system that's highly damped, like a shock absorber, will absorb a lot of the energy of whatever goes into it. And it's not going to give a lot of that energy back. And so it makes sense that something like a soundboard, you want to have a low damping system. Kind of the ultimate low damping system is a brass bell. You strike a brass bell and it just keeps vibrating because there's really very little friction. Well, a soundboard's kind of right in the middle there, So spruce wood has relatively low damping, but as we see, there's a huge amount of variability with that property and with all of the properties. And so the important part is accurately characterizing those properties.
Right. And you can consistently get results. You have accurate ways of measuring.
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. Do you have a little demo you would like to show us, or is that possible?
Yeah, we'll move the computer over there and.
All right. I'll come back to me so nobody gets dizzy while you're moving your computer around there.
That's a good idea.
And
All right, I think we might be ready there.
oh, wow, I was quick. There's Jack from High Desert, California chiming in there. Welcome aboard, Jack. Let's see if we can get back to Eric over here. Oh, look at, man, he's automatically change of scenery. And well, that was quick. You guys are good. You could have even you had time to even do a wardrobe change, I think. I said you had time even for a wardrobe change.
Wardrobe change.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go ahead, David.
I'm sorry, Robbie. We're cutting.
Oh, we're losing you just a little bit there. But go ahead and start your demo.
All right. Well, essentially, then, the ways of measuring density are very simple. We got a scale, and we have the dimensions of the board. And this has been kiln dried, and it's been very carefully milled. And as Eric talked about earlier, the milling process really ensures as perfect a quarter as the tree will allow. And this, of course, is very important for cross-grain density. We see the silking in a top that's been perfectly quartered, and that's a very visual thing that we can see. And that's going to result in a board that's quite stiff across the grain. And really, as long as the milling is right, then we can really get that property maximized. The thing that we found, though, and the thing that's really quite well known, is that even with the best milling practices, we can do everything perfectly at the mill, we still see a lot of variability along the grain in that stiffness. And that's really what we measure. We measure the stiffness along the grain. We've already got the density with the scale. We measure the stiffness and then the damping. And that's done with a single strike of a steel ball, vibrating the board along the grain. We have the board suspended on what are called the nodes, so that you can imagine that acoustically we're vibrating this board in this direction and picking that vibration up with a sensitive microphone. We're in a soundproof room here, a 20 by 60 foot double-walled soundproof room that keeps out the sound of this busy mill, and we're able to get some good, reliable data. Now, there are a lot of ways of measuring this. Robbie, you and I met at Trevor Gore's excellent course.
Yes.
And really, Trevor Gore has been one of our gurus with this. And Trevor has a way of measuring that's kind of widely available to everyone through software. And so that part's fairly easy. The stiffness and the density, pretty easy. What we did when we wanted to measure damping, though, is we really had to find the best technology out there. We did a worldwide search of all of the techs out there, and we found something from the Sirad Wood Lab in the south of France. And it involved a field trip. Of course, that was tough to get out there. But we did manage to get to Montpellier, France, and have a demo of this. And they have a very robust system for damping that I'm going to show you here.
Okay.
So, without further ado, we basically set the microphone up. And it's a single drop of it's a single strike on the end of the board, causing a vibration. And maybe we can go to the screenshot of the actual result here.
Sure. Here's the screenshot.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So we can see in the upper left-hand corner, we can actually see the decay of that sound, very carefully measured and quantified. Now, this is how we get our damping. We basically mathematically treat this. This is a logarithmic decay, so it's kind of wonky, but the machine takes the sort of the inverse natural log of that and straightens that curve out, and we're able to get a very accurate measure of how quickly that sound decays, and that's our damping factor. We're able to get then, by virtue of the first and the second resonant peaks, which you see on the lower graph there, we're able to get the first resonant peak along the board of 423 hertz. And that's a sound that's pretty close to concert pitch. This is a very important musical tone and something that our ears are very well adapted to hear. And it's through that pitch, treated mathematically, that we're able to input all these other factors and get a measure of stiffness. And that's called the modulus of elasticity, or Young's modulus. Now again, these are a lot of terms, but that's basically a measure of stiffness. And we can see a certain number down here. It measures the shear factor. That's more of a sort of an internal quality measure. But the quality factor, or Q, is the measure of damping. And again, what we're looking for is low damping. Now, it's kind of confusing to talk in terms of low being a intrinsically good property. So we kind of turn that on its head, and the industry does, by calling it Q. Q is the inverse of damping. So when we're talking about low damping, what we're looking for is a high Q value. So the way that we stratify our wood is to characterize the stiffness and characterize the density, and that's the ingredient that the luthier can use, and use a formula like Trevor Gore's excellent book as direct input into that to, kind of figure out what the guitar is going to sound like. The Q factor, or damping, is kind of something that we want to be as high as possible. We want that damping to be low. We want the Q factor to be as high as possible. So we have a certain cutoff that we've experimentally determined to be important. And anything over that Q factor, anything that has a low enough damping to make the grade, goes into the sonic sort.
Interesting. Can we ask, Larry Jones has a question about Q, and since you're talking about Q, let me
Yeah.
just give you a question there. It says, how do you calculate Q? Because Trevor Gore's design book lists 7 constants in order to compare samples, such as the same moisture content, dimensions, sanded surface,
Yep.
etc. How do you calculate Q?
Larry, that is a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. Trevor Gore has been our guru here. I think I've actually read every single page of that book. I'm not sure how many people have done that, and I've read it 2 or 3 times because those of
Okay.
you have taken the course. And I actually met Trevor at your course, Robbie, and
Yes.
that's where I met you as well. And Trevor and I have been talking about this for literally years because that's Trevor's a dear friend, a great guy, and a collaborator of ours. So yes, taking Trevor's caution about measuring Q, we've done everything we can to eliminate those variables. So Larry, for example, asked about moisture content.
Mm-hmm.
Every single bit of the wood that we test is kiln dried to 8% moisture content and kept within a half percent of that in our room here, which is not just a soundproof room, but a climate controlled room. And so moisture content is probably the most important thing when it comes to Q. You've also got the sanding surface. As Trevor discusses, the quality of the milling, simply having kind of too rough a sanding can affect the measurement of Q. And finally, the thing that I think is really good about what we do, and this is something that Trevor and I have talked about a great deal, is that when we measure Q on a board like this, Q is inherently complex. We have to put a board in motion in order to measure it. When we have a finished top, like the luthier has access to, and we put that top in motion, there's a certain sound that's created, and that sound is at about 100 hertz. And it turns out that that's not the ideal frequency to measure that Q. When we have a billet of wood like this billet makes 2 tops, 2 identical tops, because it makes 4 leaves. We're measuring that tone at about 400 hertz, as 423 in this case. And that actually is an ideal frequency to measure spruce for a bunch of wonky reasons. And Larry, you sounds like you've read that book. I'd love to talk to you about this further. But in many ways, we've really tried to take the issues that Trevor brought up, and frankly, wood scientists around the world have discussed when it comes to Q, and as carefully limit those variables as we can. That's the short answer.
All right. Now, I think this is fabulous, and Tim does too. I mean, this is just fabulous information, and it gets kind of deep here for the folks that are really not, familiar with the terminology. If you want to become more familiar with the terminology, David's already mentioned Trevor Gore's books. Go get his books. It's a great way of learning this stuff. Let's go on to another question here. Let me see if I had one here. You talked about density. What is the difference between low, medium, and high density? And I'm going to add to that, what should we use as luthiers? What are we looking for as luthiers? Low, medium, or high?
Yeah, another great question. So, when we look at density, there's a certain range that is in the natural world. And the first thing we did here, again, we talked about dipping that cup into a river of tonewood. We first had the ability to measure. What we wanted to do was simply quantify a representative sample of what comes out of the mill. And so we measured several thousand pieces and determined simply what the range is. So the range of density for Sitka spruce goes from about 350 kilograms per cubic meter to about 550. And that's a pretty wide range. And over that range, you're going to have also variability in stiffness. So we kind of, on our graphs, we measure the density along the x-axis and the stiffness along the vertical axis.
Mm-hmm.
And we create a cloud of data from that. And we divide the density and the stiffness into classes, 3 different classes. Now, we do that because what's appropriate for your guitar is entirely what the luthier finds. So in a particular design of a guitar, what we found in our very careful randomized research is that for a particular design, there tends to be an optimum characteristic. And we can go into those studies at I'm afraid, at great length. But we basically built a grand auditorium with our partners at Taylor in a total of 18 different guitars, all built on a spectrum of these characteristics, and we did blinded randomized listening tests with them. And interestingly, in every single case, there was a very clear winner. And so the answer to that question is, it all depends on the design of the guitar. And it's our job then to provide that accurately. It's the luthier's job to figure out what they need to make consistent quality from one guitar to the next.
Thank you for that, David. That brings up another question I have. And it's always that, for example, people talk about Stradivarius and, he used a certain type of wood from a certain location and, it was the finish. But my God, let's give some credit to the luthier, right? So what is more important, the wood or the luthier or both? Because I've seen people build fantastic guitars out of just junk wood.
Right. Well, what is junk wood?
Exactly.
Is it wood that looks bad? Well, we find absolutely no correlation, none, zero, between the cosmetics of a board and its acoustic and physical characteristics. So perhaps our eyes do a lot of judging here. But in terms of what's important, it's absolutely a partnership. It's a unity of design and skill and consistency on the part of the luthier, and it's the union of correct milling, correct testing, and accurate kind of delivery of a consistent product on the part of the wood supplier.
So would you say that getting a piece of sonically tested wood would perhaps give you a certain advantage in the long run in building your instrument?
Well, that's what we find. So, the reason we set up this grading factor, this grading scale, is that's frankly came from a lot of input from Trevor, who kind of figured this out before we did. He provided the hypothesis for our testing. And the hypothesis was that high Q, low damping wood is going to be good no matter what, across the board. And I'll tell you, every single experiment we've done, every one of them has shown the same thing, that high Q, low damping wood is preferred over the low damping wood. And the difference is quite remarkable. Now, when it comes to stiffness and density, that all has to do with the design. There's no optimal stiffness and density that is across the board. That's where the luthier comes in. That's where the design comes in.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah, thanks for answering that. Tim has a question, and apparently he's already been out to the Pacific Rim Tonewoods website. He says, I noted on the website there are two types of spruce. Is Engelmann not stocked regular? And does Lutz have subtypes?
Oh, Eric, do you want to take
That's
that?
one for Eric, huh?
Yeah. So Sitka and Lutz spruce are our bread and butter. Engelmann, we do actually have some Engelmann in inventory. It's not always available, and so it's not actually on our site. We do ship some Engelmann to Taylor guitars right now, but we will have some up for sale probably in the next month or so.
Okay. Do you do anything with Western red cedar?
A little bit. That's very hard to get, and it's so nothing yet. We do have some very nice redwood and some modeled or figured redwood in the system, and we'll have that up for sale probably within the next 6 months plus or minus. But some of that's sinker redwood, and it's quite beautiful, but it takes a while to dry that stuff.
Okay. Any other species like Port Orford or anything like that you guys deal with?
Might have some Port Orford here in the future. We work with Bruce Harvey from Orcas Island Tonewoods. He's a dear friend, and he's kind of semi-retired, but he's out procuring wood, and so we'll maybe have some Port Orford coming up too. He's got his eyes looking at some. So.
Okay. Here comes another question. When purchasing a sonically graded top, are the measured parameters provided such that they could be tracked compared with future sonically graded tops? In other words, do you get some type of spreadsheet or something with all the stats?
Yeah, I think that if you can bring up that other
The last photo I
last
emailed
photo,
you,
yeah, that'll have
if you're
an
able to.
example.
Yeah, let me see if I got that. Let's see if that
And,
email came
Okay.
through.
and if you're not, I might be able to share my screen
Yes, you
also.
can share your screen. Hang on a second. Oh, looks like Trevor. I'm checking my email here, and Trevor has a question. A question for Dave. It's probably the middle of the night over there
Wait
for
a minute.
Trevor.
It's the middle of the night for.
I
Wait a
know,
minute.
but apparently he's tuning in here.
What time is it in Sydney?
It's like 16-hour difference from Colorado, so it's the middle of the night. How long is it before wood elastic properties stop changing? For example, how long before wood is seasoned in old speak? Cheers from Trevor.
All right. Well, cheers back to Trevor. Well, that's a great question. And wow, a simple answer, that's tough because we can look at different time scales. It is the case that aged wood does, in terms of the damping, it does lower its damping over time, depending on how it is, how it's stored. And honestly, they've done, the researchers in Japan, Dr. Aichi Obataya in particular, probably the world's expert on damping in my mind, has done some very interesting studies on things like Japanese temples, where you have some of the oldest wooden structures in existence and testing some of that wood for its properties. And you can continue to see a decrease in damping over literally 300 years before it, I'm remembering this from reading this several years ago. And then the wood kind of degrades from that standpoint. So, we all know, we've all had this experience of playing old guitars. And one of the reasons they sound better, if they do, is because of the damping, because the damping drops over time.
Very interesting. Let's get back to John's question here. I think you're going to share your screen because I never got that email, Eric. I'm sorry, it didn't come through. But if you want to
No.
share your screen, I think you have an image you can show us.
Yep. And I got it up. My screen is, I'm going to press the share screen now. Sorry, but Google Chrome is yeah, I'm unable to because I'm on a MacBook and Google Chrome, but I can hold up also.
All right, why don't you just hold it up? Let's see if that'll work.
A label here. I think you can see that. And so there's a nice label there that, if you can see it, it has Q, density, and then modulus of elasticity. There's a QR code that would take somebody to our website, and they could go deeper on our website. And that's one of the nice things about our website is we kind of design that as an educational tool to complement our research and to bring this tonewood to market. It's never really been available before, and it's a new concept in receiving wood with known ingredients and into the kitchen of a luthier. So yeah, they get data with that board, and they'll be able to measure that guitar and the performance, and then maybe optimize and change some things after the fact on
Perfect.
the next set and find that sweet spot.
Good. You mentioned your website, and I'm just going to bring that up again. There's a video on there that shows David doing some testing. Also, you've done some collaboration work with Trevor Gore that shows some instruments. I think it's 3 different instruments that are being played using this sonically tested lumber. So you guys make sure you go and check out the Pacific Rim Tonewoods website there. Also, I notice a person from Brazil has tuned in here. And then there's a question from the UK from Glenn. He says, do you ship to the UK? So what about shipping? Can you ship this stuff worldwide?
We do. We're mainly focused on our retail sales in North America, but we do service people in Europe and Australia and in Asia. So yeah, send us an email and we can make something work out for shipping. George Loudon's one of our good customers over in Ireland. So
Perfect.
Northern
Okay.
Ireland.
Yeah, some German
Some
customers.
German customers also.
Good. I think it's a time for another giveaway. So why don't we pop down to Brazil one more time down there to Cesar and Manuela, and we're going to give away a couple of coffee mugs. You got those handy there? You can show them to us, Eric? There they are. the official Pacific Rim Tonewoods, available only from Pacific Rim Tonewoods or from the Luther Academy drawing we're getting ready to have here. We're going to give away 2 coffee mugs. So here we go down to Brazil, and there is Cesar and Manuela down there waiting for us. There they are. Hey, Cesar and Manuela. I thought you were going to be on the beach this time, huh? But you're still in my shop.
Oh yeah, I forgot to move to the beach. Just, hold on. Okay,
There we
we're
go.
on the beach now.
Now we're on the beach.
Yeah,
Woo!
it's much warmer.
All right, so we're going to have a drawing now for the 2 coffee mugs. Once again, this is for North America only for shipping purposes. So go ahead,
Yes.
Manuela, and let's generate a number.
And this time we have 57 participants.
57. All right.
Okay. So the first winner
Number
is
17. Who's number 17?
Let's just see on the spreadsheet. Our spreadsheet shows number 17.
Nate Scott.
Scott again.
Again, my God, this guy is a lucky winner. He needs to go to Las Vegas.
This is number last time. Wait a minute.
37.
Was it a different
It
number
was
last
never
time or not?
Sorry?
Was it a different number? I mean, has Nate Scott entered twice?
Yeah, I don't remember if it was was it a different number or
Yes.
not, because we will randomly rolled the spreadsheet as well, and so if it turns
It was
out that it's
37
a
last
different
time.
number,
Yeah.
it's a different number.
Eric said it
I
was
mean, this guy's
37
lucky
last time.
because
So
he
that's
survived
interesting.
it too randomly, you know.
My God, this guy is extremely lucky. He needs to go to Las Vegas and play the slots or
Yeah.
something, because man, he's
Well-
lucky.
Robbie, we'll do another cup. Do another drawing.
All right, let's do another drawing then.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
He's the only name in the call.
Number
Number
12.
12. Who's number 12?
Number 12 is I just have Samuel, and I have his email. I can show it, but yeah, this is Samuel.
All right, and
The
you have to
second
be in North America to win, because if we can't ship international on these. So congratulations to Samuel. Congratulations to Nate Scott 2 times. My God.
Yeah, at least it makes shipping easier, you know.
Yeah, one shipping. All right. Well, thank you very much, Cesar. If we have time for one more drawing,
Thank
I'll
you.
come back to you. Let's get back over here
Perfect. Thank
to Eric and David. All right. Well, Nate was extremely lucky. That guy, whew, he must have 9 lives or something. He's in the chat box. I graciously forfeit the mugs. I had re-entered after you said go live. All right. So that was PDX N8 or NB N8. That must be from Nate. So he's going to graciously forego those, and then the other person is going to win. Anyway, we're coming to the end of our broadcast here. So any words of wisdom from David or Eric out there that you want to give to us before we sign off?
I'll let David go first.
Well, it's I think that luthiers have done an incredible job throughout the centuries. Stradivari, the Cremonese violin makers, they've all used their innate skill to grade the wood using the techniques that they have available, using our own hands. We can flex a piece of wood, we can listen to it, and essentially there's a tremendous learning curve that goes into that. You know, if we've been able to do anything, it's to bring consistency to both the milling process that's been done for 30 years and now the acoustic grading process that we all do with our hands and our ears. And we've done that in the last 5 years or so, and we're really pleased to be able to bring that to the market.
Perfect. Just a quick question here. I noticed it popped up. Have you ever done any comparisons between Sitka and red spruce, the Appalachian Adirondack spruce?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yes, a few years ago, we there's an outfit, a couple of great guys named the Hampton Brothers who work in the southern end of the red spruce range, and there's Boucher in the northern end of the range. And just from a scientific standpoint, we were interested in is there a difference between that broad range of red spruce, Adirondack spruce, or Picea rubens? And that was kind of scientifically interesting. But we did the same kind of studies on that spruce, maybe about 100, 150 pieces. And what we found, first of all, was there's no difference in that range. But on average, we have, of course, higher density, higher stiffness within the red spruce. But here's the kicker, a huge amount of variability.
Oh,
That was
interesting.
probably the most variable of all of the species. And so again, it kind of comes back to when you order red spruce, when you order any of these things, you're ordering a tendency, but not anything that's exact.
Fascinating. That's very interesting. There's another question up here. Jim, I don't know if he's in your area of the country or not, but he says, do you offer tours of your operations?
Yeah. If people are local or in the area, just send an email to the info that comes to me, and we'll try to dial something in. Myself or somebody else in the mill can do a tour for you.
Yeah,
And
fantastic.
and
I know that the Guild of American Luthiers up in Tacoma is having their convention next year. And heck, that might be a good opportunity for even me to pop in because I'll probably be up in the Tacoma area next year.
yeah,
Love
that might be a good time. I know the Connor Guitar Festival, who we exhibited at this year. I'm going to try to work with them to do a tour pre the Connor Guitar Festival show, and so be on the lookout for that. And
Are
yeah, I
you?
just wanted to also, Robbie, say, thanks for doing this, and for everybody.
Oh
We
no,
really do have a
I
hello.
think we had a quick glitch there. You said something about thinking something. Do it again.
Are you there?
Yes, we're here now. We're back. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for hosting this show and having us on, and everybody that logged in. I just want to encourage people to go to our website. We've spent a lot of time on that, but if you go to the Science of Sound and the Sonic Grading page at the bottom, there is a pretty nice 50-plus minute video of Dr. Olson sharing our research and what that means. And so there's a nice ability to dive deeper, and then at that point, feel free to come back with any questions or order and test drive this new product. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much. I do notice real quick here in the chat box that the person that won the mugs, Nate won the mugs. He's going to forfeit the mugs, and
Yep.
the other person is outside of the U.S. I think we should do another drawing then for some coffee mugs. What do you think?
Sure.
All right, here we go. One more time. We're going to pop back down to Brazil, Cesar and Manuela. Let's do another drawing for the coffee mugs, huh?
Yeah, so just to clarify, Nate mentioned in the chat that he had entered more than one entry, but we do clean duplicate entries. However, Nate was picked randomly 2 times because we randomized the table and then pick another number, and he got 2 times in a row. So he's really lucky today, and that never happened before. And so Samuel is also not in Brazil. It's not in the US. So we have to actually redo both of the mug drawings. Okay.
All right, so let's try again.
So let's try again. Go ahead. And if it's Nate again, I don't know.
Number 7.
Number 7, let's see. So let's go to the spreadsheet. Number 7 is Gary Redmond. He also won something in the
Yeah, he's
past. I
won
remember
something in
this
one of
name.
our past shop talks, so he's very lucky too. Well,
Yeah, I think
congratulations,
so.
Gary. You have won the
Congratulations.
coffee mugs.
Yeah, so one more, and for the second mug winner.
Sure, let's do another one.
It's number 12 again.
Who's number 12?
It was Samuel, right? So this time without the random, I think it's Samuel again. If it is, we were going. No, it's not. I'm sorry. I had randomized the table.
All right.
So it's Alphonse. I don't have the more information, but I will contact him. And if it happens that he's not in the shipping area, we can do the drawing ourselves because we have all the list of the participants.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, Cesar.
Thank you.
All right. Here we go. Back up to Eric and David. Thank you for spending your time with us this morning. Let's give them a good round of applause here, folks. Oh, come on. We can do better. There we go. All right. Yeah. Thank you for spending your time with us, taking time out of your day. We got a couple of comments here. Jack Miller, thanks for the awesome presentation and information on Tonewoods. As a retired auto engineer, I find the use of simple FFT or frequency analyzer to determine top characteristics. Very good. All right. He says applause again. So let's give him another round of applause. There we go. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I guess we'll see you next time. Be sure that you sign up for the O'Brien Guitars newsletter. Let me get me back up on the screen here. Sign up for the O'Brien Guitars newsletter. That way you know when we're getting ready to go live, when I have these events. Also, go check out our sponsors, StuMac. They're having their 15% off sale here for the next few days. Pacific Rim Tonewoods, 10% off. Just enter the word luthery at checkout, and that's up until November 9th. And LMI is having their 25% off sale on second grade ebony and bridge blanks and fingerboards. So thank you very much for tuning in. You guys, happy building in your shops, and go check out Pacific Rim Tonewoods. Over and out, folks. Thank you.